Do you know the Multiplicity gang? Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, I know of them, obviously, being the biggest content creator in that sphere until the Associated came along. But also, no, me and Jess have spoken like quite a bit over the last year. Not like, I say quite a bit. We've had a few long conversations, like maybe like 5 or 6 chats over the last year or so. So I wouldn't say she's a friend of mine, nor is she anyone I've ever worked with, but she is definitely online acquaintance per se, and I have a good amount of respect for her as a human being. So, valid question, because I guess it should be worth noting that I do have a small amount of bias regarding Jess. Well, Jess is their name. Jess has always been their name. Multiplicity and Me is their brand, but they are Jess. They've always been Jess. I don't speak to people's alters, if that makes sense, because from my personal conversations with people like Jess, that's the sort of knowledge that I have arrived at, and best practices per se. So she's just Jess to me. That's all she is. Just a person with mental health conditions who I think is in general a very good person. I can't say I've not watched many of their videos, maybe 3 or 4 max. I've found some of them incredibly cringy and critiqued them even here on this stream. And I found other bits of her content incredibly valuable. She's somebody who has at points given fallen sway to peer pressure in various areas, but she is such a genuine and fantastic content creator. Like, I would say throughout 99% of her history online. Mainly, a big part of that is because of her willingness to be wrong and discuss. So this is why I'm annoyed, right? Before we have a look at what's gone down on Twitch today, and also sup Nor, sup Clary, sup Aiden, sup Twilight. My brain just went completely dead where I was saying sup. Yeah. So yeah, the main thing that I respect about her is what I was saying is, I'm the guy that came in ham. I went in ham with my original series on Dissociated, right? I came in like a motherfucking steam train with that original series. And in many ways, I've come to accept and acknowledge that parts of that were too harsh, and that's why when I re-uploaded the series, it was greatly edited. I cut out 60 minutes from the 3-hour long original series, so I cut out an hour, and then I filmed an extra 40 minutes that got put in, or 50 minutes that got put in. So I made quite a bit of changes in that year alone. But at the end of the day, I am the guy that went in saying DID isn't real. Anyone saying they have it is a faker and a grifter and a Chloe. That was my original perspective. One that I certainly do not hold anymore. Part of the reason for not holding that perspective anymore is thanks to people like Jess. It's 99 thanks to, 80% thanks to the conversations I had with people in my own chat who managed to describe it better than Chloe or anyone else ever had. But at that point, I hadn't watched Jess's content, and then people suggesting her content to me, and then ultimately my ex at the time suggesting her content to me and being like, she does seem really different, to be honest. And there was a video of hers that I watched, and in that video, 2 of her videos that I watched, and in those 2 videos, I just categorically could not deny what I was seeing. I couldn't say that it was DID necessarily, but my God, I could not say that it was fake either. I didn't know what it was, per se. It did remind me a hell of a lot, though, of me and my PTSD. And it was then through her content on maladaptive daydreaming and other things that I, and thus we here as a community, I would say, have started to formulate our own fairly good understanding, I think. I don't know. We don't have any way to verify what we here as a group and as a community have come to understand, and we could all be fucking insane ourselves, but it doesn't seem toxic at the least. Our understanding of what DID is and where it comes from, and etc., etc. And we're trying to make sure it's rooted in science, and as such, we've cast out so much of the old science through finding out that it's been written by assaulters and monsters and pedos and exorcists and things. And Jess is fantastic because every time I have raised that shit up with her, because I have, when I've been like, hey Jess, that person that diagnosed you, pedo defender, that fucked with her. And I was like, hey Jess, that book you have on your shelf, you know you own like 6 of Sinerson's books, well guess what? Pedo defender and criminally insane. Oh shit, Jess, Onno Vanderhart? Yeah, broke his patient's wrists and abused her for more than 10 years. Yeah. Like, and she took all that information from me and always understood that I was not attacking her, which not everyone has understood when I've talked about these things. So many people have taken it as a personal attack when all I've been trying to do is help us all as a fucking group get some better understanding of it after the legitimate damage and legitimate stigmatization that has been brought upon not just DID but a whole variety of mental health conditions and illnesses thanks to people like Chloe. And she has always been on board with that. She's never once been like, oh, but this is my precious diagnosis. She's never once been, but this is my precious study. She has been like, but I really loved Sinus and respected her. Oh, for fuck's sake, you know? And I heard the pain and anger in her voice in those moments. She has regrets, is the point, and she's expressed them to me, and she's gone, for fuck's sake, oh my God, when finding these things out from me, and has acted then upon, because at first I was like, and I only maybe a month or so ago, I was like, oh, I don't know, I still don't know, I've had my own ums and ahs about her for ages, but the reality is, when I was just thinking about it, literally only 4 or 5 days ago, it hit me. I was like, lately, every time I see Jess on Twitter, it's her either just chatting nice shit about her life, chatting about stuff to do with the NHS and how the NHS needs improving and the systematic failures and flaws within the company that she herself works for, which I think is that I admire from people within the NHS fighting from within and outside to try and change it. And then finally on top of that, she's been fighting the bullshit over this last month or so. I've seen more and more of her being like, what is this thread? This is a load of shit. This is nonsense. There is no science behind this. Often in regards to stuff like her final fusion and recovery and stuff. But the point is, I was like, I had issues with her. I raised those issues with her. She told me that she accepted those issues and would address them. And then unlike 99% of people in this world, I've visibly been able to see that. And I don't think she's done it for me is the point either. She's done it for her and for her community and for everyone that she cares about. She's never done any of that for me when I've been like, Jess, you should change this. She's thought about it. She's gone away. She's looked at what I've said. And she's come to her own conclusions. And she's done what she can to help her fucking community. That's what I've seen at the end of the day, guys. And you in this chat who have been here for a long time know I have ummed and ahed. And my final conclusion on her as a human being is she is a fantastic... Even when I've ummed and ahed, I've always said she's a good human being. But the final thing is she's just a good human being. And to bully somebody off the internet or just to bully somebody and accuse them of things like murder because they feel happier and healthier in their life at last, no matter what that may be, because of is an absolute absurdity. It makes me sick. And one of the things I said to her today, because I reached out to her today earlier, just to basically say, look, again, we've had our shit. You know damn straight how I started off talking to you. Literally, like, one of our first conversations be like straight up being like, wow, you know, I can't tell you, but I came in aggro. I came in fucking aggro, okay? And unlike Chloe, who responded with hysteria and massing an army against me, she spoke to me like a person and we had conversations. And it absolutely pisses me off and vexes me that somebody who's worked so hard, always with the right intentions, never with money as the goal, never with anything nefarious or selfish as the goal, literally always with the intention of recording a journey so that she could maybe help some other people. Be that with the wrong advice or right advice, and when she's given the wrong advice, acknowledging it and trying to fucking improve. You don't get that many places, guys. That is rare in this world. And because that person is celebrating feeling better in their life and healthier in their life than they've ever felt before, give a fuck what reason that is for, because it's not for anything illegal. You know, they're not feeling the best they've ever felt in their life because they murdered someone. They're feeling the best they've ever felt in their life. And that is just something we should celebrate for them as people who've been on this journey with them, right? And no, the fact that people couldn't do that today actually makes me so fucking pissed off at the internet. And so I've said this on Twitter today, but I'm going to say it again now, which is anyone that might consider themselves a fan, and I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube at some later, anyone who thinks themselves a fan of mine, but is DMing somebody like Jess to tell them, or messaging and say you've murdered people and you're inspiring murder, and you toxic little shits. You are not fans of mine. You have not listened to mine. You have not understood a single one of my messages. Go fuck yourselves. Literally. Yeet yourself from my community, because I don't want you. There's no real science behind final fusion, but it's just a description for a process that's been occurring in our brain, and it's about our recovery. Yeah. I personally prefer the term integration over fusion, but it doesn't matter ultimately. Fusion is just funny because we associate it with Dragon Ball Z. That's why we all laugh when we hear the term fusion. But at the end of the day, it's just a word. It doesn't matter. But the problem was Jess didn't know that the did text and theories were entrenched in bullshittery and hack and shit from hacks. And when she found out from me, rather than doubling down and arguing and defending the shit like so many have, she went, "Oh, fuck. Thank you." And that is a hard thing for people to do. I know that because of how many people have rejected me presenting them with facts to try and help them as though I'm attacking them for it. And it's like, no, I'm literally trying to say to you, this person you respect is a dangerous manipulator. That's not me trying to hurt you. That's literally me trying to help you. And if you think that's me trying to hurt you, what can, like... And she took that and she went, "Oh, shit, right. I have kids, thank you." She's capable of critical thinking. Very capable. Very, very... She is good at learning, is the point. She is. And she's fair. And beyond all that, I've said this before, I don't think people need to be nice. But I do think people need to be kind. I do think people need to be good, compassionate, generous. And hands down, she is that. At the end of the day, if the Socia for all her shit, had been a good person, and I could tell that, if I could just feel that genuine compassion and care and goodness from them, I'd have never made a video about them. But all I've ever felt from her is manipulation and control and scheming and narcissism. Jess isn't that. She's literally not that. I don't see any reason to attack a person like that. Never will. Anyone that's... And people have, like, and again, I say this on Twitter, I'm going to go over my own Twitter thread in a bit, I think, but people have asked me in the past, are you going to expose Jess? Are you going to investigate Jess? Are you going to cover Jess? And the answer was just always, I've got no reason to. Why? So she made some cringy content 10 years ago. So did I. There's never been a reason. What's up, Harry? Yeah, I know for a fact that some of the attacks Jess has had today haven't just been on public Twitter. She has been receiving DMs. And that's, again, where I just think, you pathetic worm, little shit. You're so cowardly and afraid. You know that people online will fucking attack you for what you're going to say. So you're just going to slide into someone's DMs just to spew your vile filth at them. Somebody who receives that from people often. To everyone that does that. Stop being a coward. Live your life with a spine. Grow the fuck up. Stop being a disgusting worm. Yeah, she announced that she feels better. She's gotten better. She feels better in her life than ever before. Lose 2k followers. Fuck you. I don't want to follow somebody who is well. I'm here for the misery porn. What? She's never even made that sort of content. So like, what? Is it literally just, they just want her to be sick? What the fuck is wrong with people? You getting better means that my alters might die. No, it doesn't. Grow the fuck up. Can you drop the best video, in your opinion, that the rig system has made in suggestions in Discord? We might look at that later. Again, do you know why I didn't watch many of Jess's videos as well, guys? Like, no, make 5 or 6. I found them boring. Dull, nerdy, boring, genuine, charming, endearing, but like, kind of, you know, like she something I really respect about Jess's content, actually, is she has a really good way of dumbing things down. And sometimes people can dumb things down to too dumb a point, you know, where it stops actually being useful and meaning anything, as we so often see with discourse within the world of DID. But she had a very good ability to explain things in a way where they were clear and easy to understand without being simplified to the point of stupidity. Still meaningful. You know, that's why we see people like Chloe using her driver's seat analogy so fucking often, that I still cannot find anyone having used that analogy in the context of DID prior to Jess and a very old blog post of hers from about 2011 or 12. The useful descriptions of things that actually exist out there in the world of DID, that I've come across, have often come from her in a surprising roundabout manner. It's hilarious. I'm so fucking happy for her, though. Truly, it's just ridiculous she has to go through the bullying. It's this. I hate that this is how it ends, right? This should just be a day of pure celebration and joy. And I'm very happy to say, guys, I can tell you, as I say, I've chatted to her today, it is still a day of celebration and joy for her. It really is. This hasn't affected her in a bad way. She's not taking anything negative from this. She is using this to help, to fuel, to remind her what she's doing, because she's like staying on places like Twitter and arguing and talking about DID all day. She accepts is not going to help her. And I hate that part of that revelation had to come through so much toxicity and hatred when it should just be joyous. That's my anger here, right? It's literally, and I've made this point on Twitter, it's literally like someone being like, hey, my leg is fully healed from where I broke it last month. Oh, that's horrible. Fuck you. Because of that, my leg pain is now meaningless or something, and you've killed the idea of my leg pain. How dare you? Right? You'd never do this for a physical condition. Ever. You'd never say to somebody with PTSD, if they said, you know what, it's been a year since I last had a flashback. I think I may have recovered from my PTSD. Oh my God, you're invalidating my PTSD. How dare you? What? The toxicity of that. Clary, if you get a hip replacement, you're invalidating my hips. What? No, it doesn't work in any other field. Be that medical or be that physical health or mental health, to be honest. A narcissist who has learnt to no longer act in any way narcissistic. Oh, you're invalidating my narcissist. How dare you? No, it literally exists in no other field. Somebody with multiple sclerosis finds a cure pill. Like, you know, we find a cure pill for cancer, a cure pill for malaria, a cure pill for multiple sclerosis, a cure pill for dementia. Oh, but you taking that is a bad thing, actually. Because I'm culturally demented. Right? Dementia people getting better from dementia. That's rude because I'm culturally demented. New hashtag. Fuck! Literally, I think I got more, like, also chatting to Jess, I'm not going to lie, just how chill she was with this. I was almost like, I was so happy for her, but I was like, I don't know, I've like onboarded the anger that I feel that she should be feeling or something, I guess. I'm an angry person, and it really fucks with me, the shit I've been seeing them say, basically. The shit I saw on Twitter earlier really fucks me off. The shit I saw Jess and Gaz write has really fucked me off. I link this to anti-vax rhetoric too, Clary. I do. I link this to the rise in nonsense bullshit we see currently just online and its inherent connections all over the place. It's always connected. I mean, again, when I first covered dissociated, little did I know that I would be talking about the satanic panic and satanic ritual abuse 7 months before mainstream media took notice of it. Thanks to talking about Chloe. Like, because our government, here in the UK anyway, the answer is Maggie Thatcher destroyed the English education system and started a nationwide dumbing down process. That's just the facts. Maggie Thatcher, 80s, she fucked it for us. I don't know what's gone on with the rest of the world and why American, other European countries and Australia are all getting dumbed down too. Yeah, I don't, and again, it's like I was half tempted to say to Jess, like, would you mind sending me some of the DMs, but I didn't want to because it's just rude. It's just very not the thing to do. I'll be able to find them. Don't worry, Swansus. I actually know where to find them already. You're not searching for the right thing. If you search hashtag culturally plural, you will see threads and things like that. And if you search hashtag endogenic, you'll see people talking about how final fusion and stuff is murder. This is the more succinct version of what I just said, basically. But Multiplicity and Me has created that over the last year, numerous people have asked me to investigate or expose. And never once did I understand why. I watched their videos at the height of my rage and skepticism last year, whilst being inundated by threats and hatred from dissociated stans. I watched some of Jess's videos. For weeks, I'd been declaring online DID isn't real, and for weeks, I'd been arguing with some of the most rabid and moronic fans you could possibly imagine. Arguing with people defending paedophilia and shit. Everything was poised for me to see Jess with nothing but scorn and cruel, callous hatred. Instead, I saw someone clearly struggling with a serious mental health condition, someone genuine, about as real as a person can be, someone clearly compassionate, understanding, generous, and loving. The hatred and bile that has been spewed in her direction this last year is disgusting and pathetic. Anyone that may have done so and considers themselves a fan of mine can fuck right off. You toxic, smooth-brained little shits are a festering cancer and a plague upon this world. I don't give a fuck if you think final fusion is murder. How fucking dare you bully and attack someone for celebrating their own personal recovery? If any of you break a bone in your lives, I genuinely fucking hope and pray that someone is there to break it for you every single time it's about to heal. Next time you trip and cut yourself, you better keep digging at that cut and making it bleed. And if you get cancer, you don't get to go and get chemotherapy. Or else you are a fucking hypocrite. Fuck off the internet and grow the fuck up, please. And that was my piece on it. And I want to read what Gareth was saying earlier as well. Just need a bong. I'm pissed off by this. It's just gross. Yeah, so on zoonosis, it definitely does. I did see it earlier. It's been deleted, and I know she would have received DMs about it. The thing is, we've been watching this I've been watching it for months now. She's been getting this sort of hatred for months, and it was inevitable that if she posted like something like this, it would go crazy. Yeah, and there's the subtweeting, and it's like I say, it's been, some of it's been subtle, some of it's been direct, but people on Twitter are cowardly, and they know there are people like me that will drag them through the shit if they're more direct. So quote retweeting and subtweeting and all that shit is a plague, to be honest. Twilight, literally, and you know, it's been getting bad. Like, I'm not gonna lie, to be honest, Twilight, I disagree. I don't think this discourse ever used to make sense. I think it probably made sense to you on a personal level, and it made you feel good or feel connected or feel some sense of community or some sense of understanding. But people are just on Twitter good at writing catchy things that sound good and make you feel good. They are, and through that, it allows the evolution of absolute shit to breed. And that's why I've been trying to call out people like Callian and fucking other toxic cunts in that community, but I can't. I don't enjoy just attacking, because at the end of the day, even a lot of the grifters and shit still have genuine legitimate mental health conditions. It doesn't feel good going after these people all the time. There's a reason I don't go on r/fake disorder cringe every day. You know, I've discussed this before. I don't actually enjoy it. I really don't. That's why I get so fucking angry at this shit. That's why I got into the dissociated shit in the original point, because I was so fucking angry at what I was seeing. Like, and so to me, like, of course there was some beautiful logic in there, I'm sure, and as I say, a sense of community and understanding that probably felt, yeah, to be fair, no, and I agree. No, I would agree with you there. Far less. This anti-recovery stance is, you know when it got really bad? When Callian unfused. Callian started getting backlash for his fusion and decided to unfuse, and that allowed for a floodgate of nonsense and shit. And I haven't looked at what Callian's been saying or tweeting in months now, 2 or 3 months, but I am in no doubt in my mind that hashtag culturally plural and the endogenics and all of them fucking love him. I have no doubt of it. I mean, again, they were just at 1,000 or 2,000 something followers on Twitter at the time, but they were then months ago getting 500,000 views of their shit on Pinterest. 500,000 views per month of their motivational cringe memes. Have a look at their Pinterest, Swanus, if you want some super... This is how Callian is so much... Callian is bigger than anyone realises. Callian is on Facebook. And none of us here tend to have eyes on Facebook. But Callian is on Facebook and gets 500,000 views a month on their Pinterest content. 500,000 views a month. So in the last 3 months, Callian's had 1.5 million views of their content on Pinterest. What is their content on Pinterest? Very good-looking, fluffy, motivational meme things about DID made in a square format so they can be shared on Instagram, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. So this is why I went so ham at Callian a little while back, and nobody really seemed to care about what I was saying. I feel like everyone ignored that point I made back then of, yeah, they seem small, but 500,000 views is a month. 500,000 views a month, guys. 500,000 views a month. I've had 500,000 views on my content as a whole on YouTube. Not quite. I'm at about 480,000 views across my 200 videos on YouTube in this last 2 years. And Callian gets 500,000 views. And sure, they're pictures. And sure, they've made like 10,000 of the same fucking picture, because they, like, loads of them just have different, like, it's the same quote on a different coloured background. But, like, 500,000. Which other did creator has a reach of 500,000 a month? If you can find one with 500,000 views on any platform a month, then I'm going to start investigating them too, gladly. But otherwise, I think I do need to go back into looking into Callian big time tomorrow. Not going to lie, because I have seen this evolution since they're coming about. Oh, Swanasis, have you seen my Callian video? Have you seen my Callian video? They're on YouTube. I have covered this stuff. Callian is, yeah, I've found their background. I've found everything. I've exposed them. I'm not gonna lie. I've already exposed Callian for who they are. It's just in most platforms, their name isn't that big, so nobody has seen the expose. But they're so much more full of shit than anyone realizes. They give me more noncy vibes than many people, based on the fact that, like, we were fucking looking at their shit, right, in stream, and they started deleting websites as I was viewing them on stream. They literally started deleting the websites that I was looking at as we were on stream. Because on one of their websites, they were claiming to still be 21 years old, even though they're in their 30s. And that happened to be their most popular website, where they also sold Reiki healing and tarot readings and psychic readings. Yeah, there are 30, I think we worked like 32, 33, maybe 30 at the youngest, but the 30-year-old trans dude, they are he, they, them, and I will always call them he, they, them. I think I've been very good on that with them, because I really respect that part of them. Their trans journey has actually been online and stuff for quite a while, and that side of their content there was always a little bit of, like, they were using their personal health and situation still to make content. But there is an evolution that we go through in these videos, as I say, that you will see of them online. Basically, they've been grifting online for about 10 years now. They've never had a real job in their life, and they've been grifting and rebranding themselves for over 10 years. I found more than 10 fucking grifts, found more than three GoFundMes, found a Facebook charity that started for themselves. Just so much gloriousness. Callian is the next Chloe. Callian is huge. He's already, in terms of views, getting more views than Chloe ever did just on his Pinterest. He's just not an appealing creator, so it will always be through viral memes and that shit. I don't think they'll ever be able to be a big face like Chloe is, but a subtle background manipulative puppet master. I hate to give them that much credit, but they are. They have been slyly manipulating Discourse and DID conversations for so much longer than any of you realize. It's nutty. Who was that, Sterling? Yeah, I want to know too. Yeah. I hate survivors. I'm harming survivors. I've been told that shit countless times, Twilight. Callian, the did educator who dropped out of art college. Same as me. That's why I continuously tell you guys I'm an idiot. Would never ever dare to sell consultancy or therapy to any of you for $300. Holy shit. I wouldn't dare do it for full stop. I give you advice from my heart for free. But he sells his art college dropout ass consulting on DID. He's a fucking grifter beyond all. It's disgusting. It's literally, I am 99% sure, still illegal, and somebody in the United States needs to buy, because this is the problem, right? To sue somebody for malpractice or anything like that, you need to have been you need to actually have been harmed by them in a way as such. Like, pretty sure they're not breaking anything on a federal level, but they're definitely breaking certain state laws. I'm 99% sure. And somebody needs to buy their services in the United States and then fucking sue them, because they are breaking the fucking law, I have no doubt. People here in the chat were telling me the other day, you can't just give people medical advice, remember? And remember, we literally had this chat in here yesterday. You can't just sell medical advice to people if you don't have any kind of qualifications to. You know what their qualifications are? Expert by experience, and they've attended some talks. Did you miss the end of intro? Chloe did bully intro off the internet. Chloe's fads did bully intro off the internet. The intro story is far more complex than people realise. The entropy story is way more complex than people realise. Something else we covered a little while back as well, actually. Literally right when I started live streaming, that was one of the stories I covered. Because the entropy story is far more complex than people realise. A lot of twists and turns and things within that one, I'm not going to lie. I'm therapizing you for free, exactly. Exposure therapy. Yeah, my backdrop, I know, it's pure exposure therapy for you. Dragon Ball Airy. I've been in training and I'm certified as a peer specialist and advocate for mental health issues in my state. And yeah, most of that work that I do is not it's not paid. It's most of the work I do I'm not paid for. That's it's just what I do with the people around me that I find that they need help, and I find hooking them up with help that they need the resources for and that they need maybe they didn't know about. And all of that shit I do, I don't get paid. Yep. Now, imagine with the knowledge you have, calling yourself a consultant. Calling yourself a consultant on a specific, very complex and very severe mental health condition. Because at the end of the day, they do more stigma and harm to DID by trying to treat it this way. When you address it the way I do, by saying, no, it's like PTSD. It's very severe. It's a major debilitating illness. And it needs serious treatment and help. That destigmatizes it. That makes people take it seriously and not like a fucking joke. Entro's had arguments with many people, and the real reason she yeeted herself off the internet, you're all wrong so far, I'm afraid. Every single one of you hasn't got it right yet. You've all forgotten. It's because countless people, including myself, messaged her and critiqued her saying entropy, having a system pride day and a system pride flag, and saying system pride is quite insensitive to groups such as LGBTQ groups that celebrate pride. To imply that trauma and abuse and a severe psychological condition, a severe mental health condition, a disorder and an illness is something to be proud of, gives credit to your abusers, and is very insensitive to black people, minority people of any kind in white Western worlds, and LGBTQ plus groups. Incredibly. And she debated that and debated that and debated that. In the end, I got bored of debating with it. Like, me and her had a debate on this, and in the end I just got bored, and I conceded it to her because I felt like being nice, and I didn't want to upset somebody that I knew was friends with people like Bobo and stuff at the time. But she then proceeded to delete her Instagram the very next day after me and her's debate. I don't remember Multiplicity's BLM post. No idea what that was. But yeah. So lots of people have blamed them, or have wondered what happened to Entro. And I know the reality is, the exact timeline is, me and her finished our little conversation. And 2 hours later, she had deleted her Instagram. I think I've only just revealed that for the first time. So I'm not giving myself credit for that, because there were lots of people pointing out to her that the whole thing was a bit phobic, kind of, and dumb. But there were lots of people, but me and her did have like a literal 1 hour debate in the DMs about it. So I don't know. She then came back and made another video once, and then was gone again. And on that video she didn't allow comments or anything. I don't know if that's still up. Oh, just all Nan's accents are amazing. A depression pride. Dude, PTSD pride. I'm proud of the fact that I experienced trauma. No. I'm proud of being alive. I'm proud of who I am, certainly. But I don't... You know what it is as well? The reason why she explained why she was proud of it in the debates, a big part of it was she said that she thanks... Basically, entropy, and this is where I had a big problem with her, and she does have links to certain evangelical healing centers, but entropy does see her DID as a gift. She has complete functional multiplicity in that all of her alters can talk to all of her other alters, and she has the ability to control her switches, switch on command, and be whichever alter she needs to be whenever she needs to be said alter. Very real, hey? And no PTSD. She has DID without the PTSD. She can switch between alters whenever she wants. And she thanks her artistic gifts and all her talents. She thanks it to her DID. And I explained to her that when you say you thank your gifts to your illness, you're kind of thanking the person that abused you and gave you PTSD and DID. You're thanking them. And that's really twisted. You should be proud of who you are, and you should love your gifts in spite. You should be proud of how you became such a talented artist in spite of your DID. Not you know, she was like, no, I'm great at art because of my DID. And I was like, no, you're great in spite of your DID. Do not thank your abusers for anything. That's fucking mental. So Yeah. She'd also recently, I know, I'm not going to go into details, but I know she had been arguing with other people within her own community about things and generally acting a bit weird. And then she went and snaked an interview, a paid interview, off of Bobo. An interview that was meant to be for Bobo and a few others. She went and snaked it from all of them, made it all about her, which was very interesting too. So, just a little backstory for you. Yeah, being gay is just like having a serious trauma disorder. Let's all take pride in it, exactly. Just post a picture of her face with her mouth taped. I mean, again, intention was good. Delivery was poor. But my God, you can tell she thought, I'm going to put effort into this. I want to make a good message. And it just went really badly and shit. And definitely traumatized kids at Disneyland. Yeah, who's proud of this? Proud to have survived, but exactly, DID is not a gift. It's a magazine interview. Very interesting stuff. This, again, was happening a few months ago. Yep. Kim Noble, who went into treatment because she was a diagnosed alcoholic and diagnosed schizophrenic. And Valerie Sinerson walks into the room and says to her, well, Valerie Sinerson sat in the room and Kim Noble walks into the room. Valerie Sinerson says to her, do you remember walking into this room? And Kim Noble, the schizophrenic drunk, says, no, I don't remember walking into the room. And I never remember walking into a room 5 minutes after walking into a room. But using that, Sinerson starts to convince Kim Noble that she has DID. One day I'll go fully into the story of Kim Noble. What a good rat. Yeah. With her hundreds upon hundreds of alters. And also, Kim Noble was spoken about the fact that she really dislikes all these online creators and stuff. I can't... Anyway, I once saw this article with Kim Noble talking in it about, how she's basically just ripping into people on YouTube at the time, like Jess and Bobo. I found it really interesting when they had that little sit-down chat. I was like, oof, Bobo, you don't know who you're actually talking to right now. Yeah. Valerie Sinerson convinced Kim Noble, an alcoholic schizophrenic, that she had burnt down her own home and was a victim of satanic ritual abuse and has like 900 altars. Like, Valerie Sinerson is a demon, guys. She's a fucking demon. Taking a fucking alcoholic schizophrenic and saying to them shit like, do you remember walking into this room? You know what else Kim Noble was connected to? You know where her artwork is commonly shared? Do you want to know who commonly shares Kim Noble's artwork and where you can find it on the internet in abundance? QAnon forums. Her artwork has been used as proof of the satanic Illuminati cult that rules the world. Her artwork is proof of it and has been used by various members of QAnon to prove their beliefs. It all wraps up, always. I'm so sorry, but it does. Right, we're going to finally read these. We never read the Gareth tweets, did I? I've just been ranting since. I never read Gareth's tweets because they were really good, so I want to read these. So I'm going to read these. Again, I'm not going to say who found it, but you all know who found it ages ago and showed it to me, and I was like, holy shit. Kim Noble has been proof for groups like QAnon and the Satniks for 13 years now. They love her. Of course they love her artwork. Yeah. That's also the other reality, Sterling, is if there are people out there with hundreds of alters, that's not DID either. But if it is real, then it's schizophrenia. And it can't be addressed as anything else and should not be addressed as anything else. It just can't. You hit those hundreds upon hundreds of alters, and that is, nobody could keep track of that. The brain can't keep track of that realistically. The difference in discussions we seem to have with those people is intense. Yeah, Ari, the idea is just PTSD and dissociation. I completely agree. Basically, that's what I think over the last few months we've been coming to understand here. Again, my Granddad's Lounge official theory of DID is that DID is formed by childhood abuse, but in an environment that involves an abundance of media and a detraction and a severe neglect of healthy parenting, a very damaging parental connection going on. Like, that is what would cause it, and its result is PTSD plus PTSD plus amnesia, dissociation, plus a form of maladaptive flight of fancy that is a form of maladaptive daydreaming that is destructive, damaging, unhealthy, but also a maladaptive coping mechanism. You know, it's a coping mechanism that is a form of delusion, but not the same as a schizophrenic or psychotic delusion, because it's more about it's more like a PTSD flashback, basically. It's like a PTSD flashback combined with a flight of fancy. Like my PTSD flashbacks, there is no imagination going on too. But if during the trauma you were always imagining something else to escape the trauma, then for you, when you have a flashback, you would not flash back to the incident, but instead flash back to the thing that you'd have been imagining during the trauma. And thus these long, day-long dissociative daydream states come along. I feel like medicine's understanding of the idea is flawed. That's why I've been trying to understand it as far more linked to things like PTSD. Just PTSD. I keep away from any conspiracy and pseudoscience in there. And that's why I don't look at any of the DID studies, particularly that have existed other than the ones from the last few years, because they've all been bullshit. Recently, there have been some better DID studies, very recently. And they've been good because yeah, Trip. I don't derail me even further. We don't need another subject just yet, Trip. We don't need another subject just yet. Anyway, there is some. Well, I'm not even talking about like Twilight. You don't like you're all right. I just need to. Again, the other week we were looking at a recent study done on dissociation and DID, but it mainly ended up just being about dissociation. And again, it's a good study because they continuously discuss the flaws within it. um, it's the correct way of studying, the correct way of doing a study. And in the end, the only thing that they sort of concluded from it that is that people who know about dissociation are more likely to suffer from dissociation. That was the one link that they could make. And they had an abundance of theories as to why that could be, all being very fair, compassionate, and understanding in all directions. There just needs to be a lot more new science, and that's fortunately happening in some areas. But luckily, we have things like PTSD, which the U.S. Army has been studying for a long time now, as the British. The U.S. Army is one of their largest studies. They conducted a study on 500,000 serving servicemen and women. 500,000 people get involved in the U.S. Army Corps studies on PTSD. So that's the sort of studies we can use, and then through, we've just been trying to work it out here, and I think we're slowly getting a good understanding of it here. That seems to be based more in science, but again, it's not science that we can do, but just the meta studies that we can see, our own meta studying. Psychiatrists believe in what they can treat. It's not really about believing, is what I've also discovered. Is you talk to a good psychiatrist about a mental health condition that they've not studied in, and they'll just say to you, I don't know. I have a psychiatrist that I talk to about my bipolar and ADHD, and I have an psychiatrist that I talk to about my PTSD. And they can't, the PTSD one can't do the bipolar and ADHD stuff. He's never studied bipolar and ADHD. He's one of top of the field fucking psychiatrists in the business for PTSD. He does PTSD. These days, I am as well microbarbus because of the fact that the studies and the literature that they will have read is Onno van der Hart's. The fact that the main document is Onno van der Hart's theory of structural dissociation, which in Jess's own words is, she agrees, a complete bunch of trash, needs to be thrown away. It all needs to be rewritten from the ground up. Again, I have another video on my YouTube from the last few months where you can actually hear Jess say that. It's from one of our recent conversations, and she completely agrees that literally all of the writings from the Onno van der Hart's Plus is trash, and she would agree it needs to be rewritten from the ground up. So you having suspicion in any doctor that would currently diagnose it, considering that we would all probably agree that the research they've used is bullshit, I would agree is scary. And it's why I say to you, as humanely and compassionately as I can, DID currently is not a good diagnosis in a way, because you'd rather have a diagnosis of PTSD, because then you could get treated. You could probably get more effective therapy and treatment. That is a scary, upsetting thing to know for a fact. All these people trying their hardest to get a DID diagnosis would be far better if they have genuine DID, getting a diagnosis of PTSD, because then they might get therapy and help that can actually help them. Yeah, anyone who wants to say it's not a controversial diagnosis and blah, blah, is just chatting out their shit. They don't know. They're simply being cherry picking and biased themselves, and it's dumb. And it doesn't help. It doesn't help is the thing. It's not the way science is ever done to be like, no, it's real, it's proven, it's done. Any real scientist would be like you say to any scientist, this is a theory, and they go, well, it's a theory then. Okay, so that means there is place for it to be proven wrong. And we should always seek to prove it wrong so that we can improve. And if we stop seeking to prove it wrong and we start trying to prove it, well, that's a bunch of easy shit and we'll never get any better. Honestly, I think, right, here's my final rant for the day that I've been thinking about for a while, right? Fucking hot take, and I'm just going to fucking say it, so I need a bong first. I agree, Dragon Barneri, it's PTSD. I agree one day we're going to have, much like with bipolar 1 and 2, we're going to have PTSD 1 and 2, right? PTSD 1, 2, and 3 probably, but DID, I'm sorry, I know that people attach to it, but it is a dumb name. I'm sorry, it is more stigmatizing than multiple personality disorder. Multiple personality disorder was a better name that more accurately described what we see in somebody like Chloe anyway. You know? So multiple personality disorder, can we leave that for the endogenics? And then DID, be gone. You guys have PTSD type 2. Type 2. That's my opinion. Sorry. Don't hate me for it because I still love all of you and I still want you all about so we can keep having these discussions. But that is, like, I relate to you guys. You guys relate to me. I have PTSD, ADHD, and bipolar. I do not have DID. And I've never found other people online that I relate to and understand quite as much. So, what does that mean? They had to change the name because MPD was attached to the Satanic Panic. So once this wasn't to make it more legitimate. MPD had been legitimate for a while, but the Satanic Panic completely corrupted it. There was a while where MPD was understood. And then along came others that fucked it more. Again, there are other nations in the world where it's been studied and understood for a while, slightly better than we do in the West, in the English-speaking world. I have managed to look at some stuff about it in Japan, and they have a very, very different understanding, and the understanding where I've been trying to draw my own understandings from, where they've been sort of had a cultural understanding of multiple personalities for a long time and a cultural understanding of dissociative identities for a while. They have both effectively there and understand them differently to us here in the West. So I'm hypothesizing, not theorizing right now. Sorry. I always get those two wrong. I always get hypothesizing and theorizing wrong. And then Cryptid comes in with the final thing that I know I've spoken to some of you about before as well, but I have a very strong feeling that DID is heavily connected somehow to not just autism, actually. I think autism second. ADHD. I think DID possibly is PTSD plus ADHD. I do have a feeling it could be that because ADHD is very misunderstood by a lot of people. It doesn't mean being hyper. ADHD does mean suicidal depression. ADHD does mean amnesia, forgetting things all the motherfucking time. It would be better defined as being executive function disorder, because ADHD means if you're not medicated, your executive functions, ergo your ability to keep track of time, your ability to remember what you've said you're going to do, your ability to remember where you put that thing, it doesn't work. You know, executive, right? Do any of you hear somebody say something and then go, pardon? And then they start repeating what they just said, and you, oh no, I actually heard it. And you heard it perfectly, but you didn't. And then once you said pardon, it suddenly went in and you heard it all, and it all made sense. That's because you have executive dysfunction and you have ADHD. That's ADHD. Have you struggled your entire life to pay attention? You just don't get why you couldn't pay attention. unlike others. And like, you just can't remember things. And it could be ADHD, guys. It could be a bullshit. What? Cryptid, that fucks me off. Move state, that fucks me off. What a load of shit. I am diagnosed with ADHD and PTSD and bipolar by literally the most qualified ADHD specialist in the UK. That can go to fuck who. Like, I completely re-diagnose you. I'm sorry. I hate love armchair diagnosing all of you, as you know, but I hate that bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. Do I think switching to alters? I think if you can control the switches, if the switches occur with no triggers and there's no amnesia and there's these perfect conversations and blah, blah, obviously. Every person in here has DID or claims to have DID. From the conversations we've had, switches are never controlled. Could be triggered, yeah, but you wouldn't know what would happen from it. You'd never be able to control what alter you switch to. And 9 times out of 10, it would just result in self-harm or something stupid. It will result in self-harm 9 times out of 10, you know? Syndrome would maybe be a better term. Since your DID diagnosis, you haven't been able to get medication, and it's ruining you. Because DID diagnosis, like BPD and like CPTSD, in my opinion, is not a good thing, and it's a trap, and you would much better off have a diagnosis of something like PTSD, where there are a vast variety of treatments for it, because it's understood how PTSD causes depression, blah, blah. You know, they know, they have a good understanding. If you have PTSD, well, that means depression, suicidal intentions, amnesia, depression, anxiety. They know that means all that stuff, and they can start giving you a variety of medications to help you with it and a variety of therapies to help you with it. Whereas with anything else, you're fucked, aren't you? Trip. Me and literally, my ex-girlfriend Sarah, the one that cut me with knives and shit, who I could easily have diagnosed, like literally. I mean, this is back in like 2004. I was with her, and 3, and I was with her, and like, I've discussed how me and her had no sex life. The only time me and her would ever have sex is the one day a month where her fairy altar would come out. And she was a fairy for the day. She was horny as fuck. That girl had trauma and issues. Ended up with a diagnosis of BPD. And we all know what that fucking means. And she used to describe me all the time as having multiple personalities. In fact, every ex I've ever had has at some point in an argument described me as having multiple personalities. But it's emotional dysregulation plus PTSD. And having emotional dysregulation doesn't mean you can't have PTSD. Just because you have the emotional dysregulation from ADHD doesn't mean that sometimes it's from your PTSD. And I do not think CPTSD is real. I think CPTSD is PTSD. I do. I have an issue with it because CPTSD, again, is a trap that stops people from getting treatment. Severe anxiety since you were 5, never medicated for it. I mean, I don't think people at age 5 and younger should be medicated for things that aren't physical, to be fair. Neurological conditions, your extreme anxiety at that age could have come from neurological factors, but at that age they have to more try and look at environmental factors, or good doctors would anyway, and your parents would just being cunty there. At some point you'll start chatting a bit more and you'll get your turn being diagnosed by me, and then you can go get yourself properly diagnosed and you'll get that hilarious experience of finding out that I was right. Everyone gets their turn. Ask Mooney. Anyone say it's ADHD? Elvance, my medication Elvance, is like the thing that takes away most of my suicidal ideations and thoughts. There's not much time for the whirling vortex of suicidal impulse and feeling when I can concentrate and focus on the things I want to. And I'm not the anhedonia being painful, continuous boredom, all the video games you love, but you don't want to play. It's just nothing, and you just lie there in your bed on your phone and fuck all. Anhedonia is ADHD, and it makes you want to kill yourself. Yeah, and that is what the Japanese would call having the classic many faces or multiple personalities, the four personalities or four faces that all Japanese people are born with. In Japanese culture, all people have four faces, four hearts, four selves, in a cultural sense. Kaya, you're not. It's something. Yeah, definitely. I swear I talk about ADHD so often, yet probably not enough either. I mean, PTSD plus bipolar. Yeah. PTSD plus bipolar. Again, I have bipolar too. My multiple personalities comes half from my ADHD, but certainly half from my bipolar. And I don't have multiple personalities. I'm just saying, like, when people have felt that way about me, sometimes it's from me being bipolar, sometimes it's from me being ADHD. The more rapid changes that can occur with me are not bipolar. The gradual, monumental, huge shifts that occur with me over the course of a year are the bipolar. But again, the person that I currently am is very different. If you go and, I mean, there are no VODs from 4 weeks ago, but I mean, if you were to find a VOD somehow from 4 weeks ago, you'd see my energy levels have shifted quite a fucking dramatic bit. And I did tell you guys that I was coming back onto my manic phase. And yeah, I am. I'm back to being manic happy Pete. It's so much better than being depressed, though. Now that I'm medicated. When I wasn't medicated, being manic was much worse than being depressed, because that's when I would do bad things. Yeah. I agree. That's why I said earlier, Trip, I even said executive function disorder. It's such a better term. Or executive regulation disorder. Executive function and regulatory disorder. If you love Ritalin, then you I can split, but more importantly, it's not that I split. When I'm manic, I diagnostically would categorize, but my psychiatrist wouldn't diagnose me with it because it would just be a hindrance and a harm on my life. But I, diagnostically speaking, would count as ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, when I'm manic, but because of my psychopathy, because of how high in psychopathic and narcissistic traits I am when I'm manic, mostly coming down to risk taking and lack of self-care. And then that also causes me to take offense more easily, which can cause really dramatic personality and mood changes. This seems a bit like BPD splitting, but it's not, because there's a lot more hate in me when it happens. And I don't mean it at all in the fucking slightest. It sucks for me and everyone else, but it sucks for me most. The difference between PTSD and complex PTSD is how they are diagnosed and how they are treated, and diagnostic criteria. So the PTSD flashbacks, complex PTSD emotional flashbacks. Complex PTSD is the exact same thing in the literature, basically, as BPD, just it's written in a much less sexist manner. However, Big difference between complex PTSD and PTSD is that complex PTSD treatment is dialectical DBT and CBT group therapy that you'll never get and is very ineffective. Whereas PTSD gives you access to medications, one-to-one proper therapies and treatments, respect and compassion from members of the NHS. PTSD diagnoses, however, cost the NHS way more. Also, training people in the ability to diagnose something like PTSD costs way more. CPTSD is a much cheaper diagnosis for the NHS. That's the difference, okay? And that's why I say they're the same motherfucking thing, because just one bars you from treatment and one gives you treatment. You and Lex get credit for Mooney's recent undiagnosis, but I was right. I was just waiting for somebody to help me. I didn't want to barrage her with how right I was. I just needed somebody to help me there. Yeah. Yeah. And you literally, during, this is what I was saying, like, so during a flashback, rather than me, for when I experienced a flashback, I go to my trauma. You, where you were escaping the trauma whilst experiencing the trauma in your head through flights of fantasy or masking and being someone else. When you experience a PTSD flashback, that's where you go to, that state. And that's the same with CPTSD, just you go back to the emotional state. But I think it's just bullshit. Like, because that means if people don't have any form of like visual memory, they're always going to get a diagnosis of CPTSD. If you don't have a visual memory, how are they going to diagnose you with PTSD, with the current PTSD literature versus CPTSD literature? You can't, can you? If you don't remember things in a visual manner, all you'll experience is emotional flashbacks, and thus they'll give you CPTSD. And I think that's a load of horse shit. I thought medicine would mess with my creativity, but honestly, nah. Medicine helps me create because it keeps me stable enough to consistently create. It sucks. It really sucks. Hey, I said something that you all agree with. That's rare. I'm glad. I'm glad we're talking some sense this episode. Hey, another good thing off the back of Jess getting better, eh? A really good discussion, I think. I know I seem so angry and heated, and it's literally at none of you. And I'm actually like really happy right now, just angry and heated at the... Why is it taking us? Why is it taking somebody who is happy to admit every day he goes online that he's a fucking idiot for a group of 20 adults to finally have a good conversation about something, or, you know? You still get the meds, you still get treatment, and you'd get CBT therapy maybe, but it's individualized, like you and your therapist are. And so the way therapy is done here in the UK, we don't have a therapy culture here in the UK where you might have a therapist, you might see a therapist weekly or anything like that. It just never happens here in the UK, pretty much, okay? Very rare. But that is interesting, to be honest. That is interesting. So that's maybe something I need to start expressing more thoroughly in the future. is, here in the UK at least, I see CPTSD as being a bit of a red flag. I mean, I know people that have a diagnosis of BPD, CPTSD, and PTSD. And all of those things can summarily be described as PTSD, and it's just the other two things on there cause nurses to look at them differently, cause nurses to think they're liars and things like that, you know? Cause nurses to think the sexist bullshit rhetoric that we read in books like I Hate You, Don't Leave Me, the BPD Bible. Thus, Clary, if BPD is bullshit, CPTSD must therefore be bullshit too, because they are the same, just written about slightly differently. You know how the Decider course came from being like really praise Jesus, dear daddy shit, and then it got slightly less praise daddy, dear Jesus shit in the revised issue? You know, it's the same thing. BPD is pure sexist bullshit. CPTSD is the same thing repackaged. But thus, why should we look at it seriously other than to debunk it and understand, as we have with things like DID and other stuff, that it's fucking PTSD. It's just, it's like this thing of with like, as a community, trying to be like, we are gatekeeping trauma. That's it. You know what it is? It's gatekeeping trauma. PTSD means you got your trauma from something serious and dramatic and once off. CPTSD means your trauma was repeated and very serious. BPD means your trauma was repeated but not very serious. DID means your trauma was repeated but the most serious. That's all it fucking is. It's trauma gatekeeping. Because that's what it breaks down to, right? PTSD, you were in war. DID, sexually abused as a kid. CPTSD, neglected as a kid. BPD, neglected as a kid. CPTSD, bullied as a kid. You know, like, it's trauma gatekeeping. Also, I'm pretty sure I said about an hour ago that I was going to read Gaz's motherfucking tweets. But first, I had a real hot take that I wanted to share with you all. And I never got round to the hot take, let alone reading Gaz's tweets, because of just how I genuinely, like, this has been a great discussion. What the fuck? I am genuinely grateful that you guys helped me facilitate this, because it's educational beyond belief. I sort of, through this, I'm not going to lie, I do sort of, through these conversations, I've been thinking about this recently. I'm finally understanding why medicine needs to be a bit more patient-led, and it can't rely on patients becoming doctors. It has to rely on professionals listening to the mass words of patients. Does that make sense? I don't think we should be experts by experience whatsoever. But should doctors listen to our mass voices and do better? Oh, I think so. I think we can say that, and I think I understand that really well now. Why people end up maybe deluding themselves into thinking they're experts by experience, right? Where they'd have these conversations with their peers in their communities, and they think, I know so much about this from all the people I've spoken to in my own experience. But that doesn't mean shit, but it does mean somebody should fucking listen to us and then use that to try and inform where science goes forwards. Patient-led medicine, I think, is an important thing for us to achieve as a community. All right, bong and then hot take. I think a lot about the difference in diagnostic standards between the UK and USA are down to bureaucracy in the UK. In a supposed universal healthcare system, but one that's been deliberately defunded by a government that's ideologically opposed to it. In other words, diagnoses that are cost effective get commissioned. Yes, our NHS, again, you guys missed these streams, so I'll tell you final bit of info, then hot take. But, the way BPD is discussed in current NHS literature around the country that they give to their acute mental health teams and community mental health teams to help them in the treatment of patients with BPD is that if your patient discusses self-harming of a violent nature and shows you self-harming, you basically are meant to perceive that there's a threat for them to continue doing that, and that you're not meant to reward that. You're not meant to reward that behavior with attention, and you should tell them that because of that, you won't be seeing them for the next appointment. So, when your patient self-harms, and before your appointment tells you they've self-harmed, you have to cancel your appointment on them as punishment for them trying to hurt you. And if somebody with BPD kills themselves, if somebody with BPD attempts suicide, they're not actually attempting suicide. It's not a call for help, it's a call for attention. It's not a cry for help, it's a cry for attention. And BPD's made up, Cryptid. BPD's made up. No, Cryptid, just trust me on this. BPD's made up. There's some old videos I can link you to that I've made. BPD is pure bullshit. Pure bullshit. Pure bullshit. I can show you the people who created it and you'll go, oh, it's bullshit. It's pure bullshit. Sexist, misogynistic, horse shit. It's the worst. It's the worst. It's so damaging. Oh, fuck, I totally forgot what I was saying. Oh my god. No, girls get BPD. Lucky girls get CPTSD. Boys get bipolar or PTSD. I cannot remember what I was saying. My brain went completely blank there with my thing. Rare. Not many men get a BPD diagnosis. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is the celebrity Pete Davidson. And he's also diagnosed with bipolar. So what he actually has is PTSD from living a life of undiagnosed bipolar. He has the trauma that anyone would have, the severe trauma that anyone gets from living a life of undiagnosed bipolar for most of your life, and only getting diagnosed in your mid 30s. What was I saying, guys? But yeah, BPD is just PTSD again. It's literally PTSD. Written by the most evil fucks ever. Guys, what was I saying before? My brain went dead. What was I saying? Oh, if none of you can remember and I can't remember, we'll finally give you my hot take and then read these fucking tweets. You've already got your diagnosis. Fibro-CFS. But we know we don't know what fibro is, and we don't what caused the chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue is just a description of my symptoms. It's not the cause. Chronic fatigue can't cause the chronic fatigue. I don't fucking remember. Yeah, the whole unwillingness of medicine to look into women's issues. You know, we're going to find out one day that everybody ever diagnosed with fibro or CFS had some kind of fucking like ovarian cancer or something, aren't we? That's what we're realistically going to find out one fucking day. Not literally that, but you know what I mean. Pete's hot take. The only valid discussion anyone should be having, right? This is, I don't know why I didn't do this ages ago. Super spicy take incoming, guys. Prepare yourself. Oh my God, I'm nervous even saying this. Hot spicy take. The only valid discussion, the only worthwhile discussion that anyone should be having in regards to DID and recovery and treatment is that of integration/final fusion. This discussion that people have on functional multiplicity, and this is the big mistake Jess made with her channel, is worthless. And I think Jess has been trying very hard to make that point without saying it overtly for over a year now. And I think people need to pay attention to that. Since she started talking about maladaptive daydreaming and how she herself wanted to seek integration, she was unwilling, you know, she kept saying that's not to say functional multiplicity isn't a worthwhile goal, but for me. Why is that? Because at the end of the day, functional multiplicity, to have all your alters able to talk to each other, to have them all able to communicate, to be able to control switches or whatever, truly, completely 100% functional multiplicity, to the point it has no damaging effects on your life whatsoever, would also mean you are now LARPing. Now, I believe Jess when she said originally she was seeking functional multiplicity, and the reality is she did keep still having uncontrolled switches throughout that journey. But she herself, in her tweets and posts of recent, has described things changing and a changing in goals for her. And I don't think people have really been listening. And that is where the backlash has been coming from. Exactly, Sterling. Exactly. But people say just integration is death. And then you say to them, well, actually, I'm sorry, what I've said before is wrong. And the reality is there is no such thing as a happy, healthy, truly functional life where you might experience uncontrollable, flashback, trauma-inducing, self-harm-inducing switches. That is never going to be a functional life. Ever. That is called coping. Not living, not thriving. That's called clinging on, struggling, and coping. And that's fucking painful, I think, for people to hear. But it needs to be abandoned. It's actually a form of damaging rhetoric. And I've thought this for a long time now, and it's one of the areas where I've always had a iffy feeling with Jess, and she changed from that and started wanting something else and working for something else and talking about how she wanted that other thing, and for that has been attacked. And that says to me so fucking much. Because people are often unwilling to let go of what they need, but yeah. Because I respect you guys a lot, and I've not wanted to lose any of you from my community either, because I like talking to all of you. So thank you for hearing that out. But that is the reality that I've wanted to say to a lot of you for a while now, is when you talk about this stuff as being your own goal or whatever, is no. You have to stop. I want to have a broken leg that never fully heals, and I always limp upon it. No. I want a liver that's always damaged and just about functioning. It functions. It's not a healthy liver, but it functions. I want lungs that function. They're not healthy and strong, but they function. No. That, I think she realised, wasn't truly a healthy narrative. That's why she stopped talking about it and would say, I'm not disparaging functional multiplicity, but for me, I realised I needed to heal fully. She said that so many times, she has. And it's not been heard. And yeah, thank you for hearing me out, guys, because that's my hot, spicy take that I've been wanting to say for quite a while now, but I knew it was going to be hard to hear. And it, again, adds to what somebody said earlier about anyone willing to diagnose the idea in the first place. And if they think the treatment for it is functional multiplicity, you have to think, why? Where did that come from and why? And would you say that for any other illness? Harmonization and synthesis are lovely words. I agree. I think harmonization is maybe still a little bit too flowery for medical language, same as fusion. That's why I like integration. It's just, I don't know, it's not... Integration isn't a word that an author would use. It's a word that an autist would use. Harmonization, fusion, synthesis, they're nice words. They're very pretty. But they're not good words, actually, because they just need to be simple, clean, cut, and dry sometimes. Yeah, I brought back sound bites just because of what's it? The Alex Jones ones. I haven't transferred the Alex Jones ones over to stickers yet. But once I've transferred the Alex Jones quotes over to stickers, then sound clips will officially be gone for good. Yeah, but Microbarbus. But I realised I'd been missing something, and it was Alex Jones. But Microbarbus, with the attacks I've had from certain members of the community, do you realise where I've managed to build a bit of an understanding from so many of you over the last few months, where so many of you have finally realised, yeah, Grandad may say some things that sometimes offend or upset me, but he really doesn't mean to. He really is just trying to chat to us all as human beings. That has taken a long time to build up, and I don't want to ever damage that, It's hard building a community. keep saying, I'm genuinely proud of what I've achieved with you guys and in this fucking place somehow. And like, yeah, it's just proof that we have all, I think, travelled a great distance from last year, haven't we? I often think about how much I have changed. I was much more of a bigot last year, and I think all of you have probably become a lot more patient as well. A lot less defensive, a lot more understanding. I know I've become a lot less defensive and a lot more understanding. It's just the whole wonderful thing. It's great. Mono caused fibro. What? Trip. That last, the one that deleted her video. That you've been chatting to in Discord for quite a while now. That's Ray. That's Rabies. That's why I added her to our group ages ago. Didn't realise that one, did you? Yeah, she made a really long video, and in that video literally thanked me and my content for helping her decide to make that video and do that shit. Again, I don't lie when I say I literally want to help all of you. I just want to help as many people in this world as I fucking can. And I think I finally met people where I can help them just through conversation and community, and it's so fun. It's so good. So good. Such a rare thing in this world. Well, there we go. Grandad's hot take. Do I? Do I? I do? So I'm so confused because I thought Kaya and Co was Norman. I'm so confused. It's not that hot. You gotta go. Take it easy, Twilight. Hope you've had a good evening. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting you're the real Chloe. Of course. Thank you, Chloe. I mean, Kaya. Wait. Hot Pete's still here, thank you very much. Was this a bit triggering? Twilight, I'm sorry. Well, I hope you're alright, and sorry I've given you so much to think about, and just have a good rest of your evening and stuff, and come back later if you want, and we'll catch you soon. No, it was me though. It is a hot, spicy take too. I just realised what you were saying. Okay, catch you in a bit. Have a good evening. So, on to Gareth's tweets at last. I cannot explain. Oh no. The fact that my wife deleted her Twitter account because of the amount of messages and views saying she or other people have murdered alters due to getting better is sickening. Take a real hard look at yourself in the mirror and reevaluate yourself. I'm actually fucking furious that this has been going on. And the fact that I'm indirectly a part of the community where the loudest people constantly talk about inclusivity, and then oust others as murderers, saying alters are dead, blah blah. Fuck off. I'll have the biggest voice now. You, and I'm not gonna lie, guess what? He does have the biggest voice now. He ain't joking. If you have the viewpoint of people with the ID getting help to directly or indirectly aim for final fusion that therefore murders, alters, anything along those lines, go look in a mirror and seriously fucking reevaluate yourselves. Everyone has stupid takes on stuff, but you are fundamentally ruining people's days or even lives with your shit takes and nasty fucking comments. You are nothing short of a waste of space and a cunt. I'm normally a fucking delightful, if not crass person, but I honestly hope some of you fail. Fuck you. Not that people will, but in case anyone thinks I'm calling myself infallible, I'm certainly not. I have major flaws. I also have shit takes. What I'm not doing though is tweeting to people, sending them messages that may and do cause them distress or bully them. I have ADHD and I've always been very outspoken, but none of you realise how many times I talk a post through first. Loads of times to understand if it's going to harm anyone first. That's what some of you really need to be doing. Verbalise your post to yourself first. Well fucking said, Gaz. And I know I've already said it enough, but just one last additional. Fuck you cunts. It's validly hard to accept that your diagnosis may not be valid overall. No, but this is what I don't think. But this is what I hate. I don't want to. I disagree. I think your diagnosis, once you've been diagnosed with it, is always valid for that period of time as such, because that was what was known. You know? My Asperger's diagnosis is less valid nowadays in the sense that we don't call it that anymore and we just use autism spectrum disorder. But, you know, it doesn't really necessarily invalidate the feelings I had at the time. It doesn't invalidate the person I was at the time. It doesn't invalidate the actions I had at the time. It doesn't invalidate who I thought I was at the time. It just means doctors hadn't worked shit out well enough yet and failed me and failed you. This is the thing. I think this is the thing where people keep... I want to invalidate the history of current knowledge of DID. That is what we have been doing, but not invalidate anyone with DID or say that they aren't real or say that their diagnosis is false. And finding the ability to do that, as you all know, has been very hard. Because I don't want to invalidate any of you. And I'm not doing that. I personally am not doing that. I'm not. I'm saying that the history of what's led to our current understanding is invalid and it needs work. Multiple states of different identity. It's like, how many of you exactly? But I hate this. It's not like the whole diagnosis isn't valid, is what I'm trying to say. Rather, either parts of the diagnosis were valid. It's just that parts of the diagnosis as a whole were total bullshit, and that's nobody's fault. Well, it is people's fault, but it's none of our fault. It's none of your fault. All right, final time I'm saying it, but yet again, thank you for enabling this conversation as a group, guys. I appreciate the fuck out of it that we're able to talk this way. I really do. It means so fucking much considering where I was last year and everything, you know. It does. It really does. It's kind of amazing for me in ways. It's the last thing I would have ever expected in a billion years, April 2020, was that I would be regularly speaking to a group of people that, one, identify as having DID, and that, two, I'd be chatting to them happily, trying my hardest to not even let them ever feel invalid, because I don't want you guys to feel that way. I want you guys to feel angry at the history and help us all reshape this into something more valid. And yeah, I think that's the other thing that systems in chat right now, you have to also understand, for those of us that aren't systems, have what we have known as not insanity, have you guys be like, yeah, no, we agree this isn't insanity, and the rest of the insane ones, it's that destigmatizes DID. You know? You know what brings stigma on DID as a diagnosis? When you say to an endogenic, you're bullshit, and they argue with you for 10 hours. And you all agree. Oh, fuck the internet at times, and fuck yes, the internet at times. Right. That was some intense shit. Don't know how long we've been chatting now for. Fucking hell. 2 hours on that. Wow. I feel like I've literally been ranting for 2 hours non-stop. Sorry. That's I need a slight psychological break. But please nobody go anywhere, or else I'll be depressed. And here is your regular reminder for gang that may have had their subs run out, or gang that may not have yet subscribed. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe using your Amazon Prime free by you just have to log into Twitch using your Amazon details, and hit a yes thingy linking them, and then you can subscribe to me for free, and then you won't get adverts, and it costs you nothing, and it will give me $2.50 a month, which is pretty cool, I think, for me. And like I checked, I've now been averaging something like 230 hours streaming a month. So that's about just over 50 hours a week that I'm streaming on average. Wow. So I mean, that's literally if you pay, so it's free if you use Amazon Prime, but even if you pay, it costs you $5, I think, or £5. And if you think about that, that's £1 or $1.25 a week for more than 50 hours of me. I'm totally worth it. And I'd really fucking appreciate it. And also, the other thing is, I really want to start doing sub-only chats, because we've had a really nice chat tonight. But like, it costs $3.99 in Great British pounds That's dirt cheap. So, and a whole £2 of that goes to me, and a whole £2 goes to Jeff Bezos, sure. But a whole half of that does go straight to me, which is lovely, I think. So for £4 British, that's £1 a week. That's £1 a week for 50 hours of content. And I'm going to be doing sub-only chats soon, is the other thing. I was going to do it tonight, but then a whole load of you aren't subbed, so I didn't do it tonight. But I was actually going to do a sub-only chat tonight because the other night I got really fed up. So I'm going to probably start doing 1 or 2 nights a week where it's sub-only chat, so that we can have these sorts of conversations we've luckily had tonight. This sort of conversation wouldn't have been possible in previous streams. I'd have been having to fucking ban people, and I'd have been getting fucking pissed off at them and getting distracted in not enjoyable ways. So, like, it's pretty banging. Thank you, Dragon Lardery. Hey, it works. I just need to remind people every now and then. Oh no, thank you, Clary.